Welcome viewers. As you may be aware that all the modern industries are now looking for productivity improvement. They are desiring to have better market share in the market because there is a global competition. Every company is trying to capture the market with the help of a new technology development. Now, when you have a new technology, you have a latest techniques, then these modern companies or these modern industries are also looking for modern ways of doing a process or modern way of doing making a product in a shortest possible time. Why they want in a shortest possible time? Because it will save the money as well as the time as well as the human resource. So when we are trying for a new or a innovative method of doing, then the name of work study always comes into the picture, which is today's topic for the session. Here in work study, why we are going to study the work study? That is a very important question, because we know that in a normal manufacturing company or in a service organization, every activity is defined. Now, we also know that a person is assigned to do that activity. Now, it is quite possible that he is or she is taking more time, or in another way we can say, if we can show the person a correct way of doing that activity, then it is quite possible that the total time for doing that activity may get reduced. That is the objective of the work study. So today we are going to focus on this very important area, and after 50 years or more than 50 years, work study has not lost its place. Still it's find its important place in the industry. In any industry, whenever there is a new method or whenever the management of the company wants to revise the method, he or she takes the help of work study. So let us first see that what is the definition of the work study. Work study is an investigation basically by the means of consistent system to attain the best possible use of available man, machine, materials, money and time. Now when we say that it is an investigation of effective utilization of man, money, material, money and time. Now what does it mean? That for doing any process or for doing any activity, we all know that we need all these 5 M's. Now there is a systematic way of doing an activity. Now work study basically aims how to utilize these resources in a systematic way, or in other words we can say in more meaningful way. Let us say what is the second definition of the work study. Here the total concept of the work study is based on these 2 questions. First is, how should a job to be done, and second, how much time a job should take for completion. Now when we say that how should a job be done, that means the answer is the method study. When we say that how much time a job should take for its completion, then basically it comes under the time study and the work measurement. Now the objective of work study, basically it helps in the optimum use of plant, equipment, manpower and material. So basically here when we say the optimum use of plant, equipment and manpower and material, now when we are focusing on that word optimum, that means the resources are available, we can fully utilize them, but there is a optimum utilization, that we can say that suppose there are some constant, there are some limitations and we have a resources. So considering all the constraint and the availability of material, the utilization of these resources, we can say the optimum use. So work study, the main objective of work study is to devise a method so that these resources can be optimally used. Now we will see the second objective of the work study. It basically helps in establishing the standard of performance. Now when we say the standard of performance, that means there are many ways of doing a job or activity. Now what is the best way, or we can say what is the minimum time of doing a job. If suppose we can do a particular job in a 3 or a 4 different ways, so there must be a particular way which can be accomplished or completed within a minimum time with optimal use of resources. So that is called the standard performance or standard way of doing things. So the second objective of the work study is to devise or establish the standard of performance, that what is the time for doing that, or for particular doing that job, what should be the environment, what should be the requirement of raw material, what should be the particular space, how much space should be needed for the movement of the material as well as men. These all comes under the standard of performance. Now let us see the third objective of the work study. It helps in developing the efficient work method. Fourth, it helps in establishing the most efficient and effective utilization of human effort. Now here when we say that most efficient and effective utilization, now suppose a person has been assigned on 2 machines or 3 machines. Previously he was only assigned on 1 machine, and after setting up or after starting or after fixing the job, he was only looking at it, the processing of the job in the machine. Suppose we take a milling machine or a planer machine. Now only watching the activity is a wasteful activity. Now this person can be assigned another job on the second job when the first job is being processed in the first machine. Now this is the efficient utilization of the human resource. Similarly, we can also see that which worker can be assigned on which type of a job. That is again come under the study of the work study. Here we can see that if suppose there are 3 workers, and if the time for processing the jobs is different for different workers, so we can have the best possible time saving by assigning a particular job to a particular worker. Now let us see the fourth objective of the work study. It helps in synchronizing the various resources like men and machine. Now what does it mean by synchronization? That means a particular man, it might be possible he may have the skill in doing a job in a particular machine. So we have to see, as an industrial engineer, we have to see that which worker can be assigned on a particular machine, so that we can get a best possible result from the combination of the man and machine. This is the another very important objective. Now let us see it helps in the evaluation of human work. Now when we say the evaluation of the human work, that means we are fully evaluating the performance of the operator at the work. Next, it helps in the efforts toward the productivity improvement, because ultimate objective of the work study is productivity improvement. It further helps in the elimination of wasteful efforts, useless material handling. As I told you that a person who can be assigned in two machines, when earlier he was assigned only in one job, his effort was wasteful, so he has been assigned to two machines. Now we have utilized the time of a human or operator on two machines. That is the elimination of wasteful activity. Similarly, the material handling, we can find out the best or the shortest possible path for the movement of the material, or we can find out how the best possible material can be handled between the two workstations. In that case, we can also have that how we can have or we can locate the workstation, so that the total number or there should be a minimum material handling between or among the work center. Now let us see what is the next objective. It is helpful in developing the plant safety schemes, equipment utilization, plant layout, and conducive work environment. Now when we say the plant safety, equipment utilization or plant layout, basically these all are starting when we are saying the effective utilization of the human resource, or minimization of material handling, or standard of performance. These all indicate towards the safety practices. Now we will come that what are the different steps in the work study. The first step, the basic step, is the identify and select the job or process to be studied. That means first we have to see that if we are going to devise a new method or we are going to revise the earlier one. So we have to first select which job or which process needs to be revised, or where we need a new method. First we have to identify, because in work study we need the cooperation from the operator as well as from the management. So the second step, which is like this, that use direct observation for recording everything that happens using the most effective recording techniques. Now after identifying the job, we will ask the operator or the person to carry out the job as a usual manner. That means first thing is that, and the most important thing, that operator should not aware that his timing is going to be recorded, or if he is knowing or she is knowing, then he should be taken into the confidence, because he should not feel, because in some cases it has been observed that worker was feeling that when you are recording, that is going to affect his wages, because there is a misconception that when the work study is going on or the process of work study is going on, the worker does not really help or cooperate, while in this case we need the full cooperation of the worker. Now how we will get the full confidence? When the worker has a trust that after completion of the work study, he is not going to lose the job, and even he is not going to lose the wages or the incentive. And he should cooperate, and he should cooperate by doing the job as usual he is doing. Then only our the process or the work study, the objective of the work study will be fulfilled. Now the third step is the data and the facts obtained in the previous steps are examined and analyzed. Now examined and analyzed, that means whatever data you are getting, suppose you are getting the data related to the completion time, or you are getting the data or the recording that how effectively the worker is utilizing his both hands. It is quite possible that in a particular activity the worker is not utilizing his both hand while he can utilize. Similarly, it is also possible that he has not arranged the tools in a proper way. So each time whenever he is needing or he is requiring a particular tool, he is searching. Now this data or this fact has to be examined. We have the video recording, we can see, or we can have the time watch that instead of taking 15 minutes, he is taking 20 minutes. So all these data or facts should be critically examined or critically analyzed. Now the fourth step is the develop the most economical method under the prevailing circumstances. Now you should focus on the prevailing circumstances and the most economical method. Now here you are, as an industrial engineer, you are not going to change the prevailing circumstances. If the worker is working in a non-AC room, that means he has to work in that non-AC room. Or if the space is not sufficient, then he is not going to get the more space. So this is the prevailing circumstances. Now here we have to develop the most economical method of doing a particular activity which that particular operator is performing. Now how you will do? You have a stopwatch or you have a different mechanism. Here you have to see, or you can use the benchmarking, that what is the best method of doing a particular activity, and then on the basis of that you can devise or develop a particular method of doing that activity. So that is another important step of the work study. Now let us see the next step. Here you have to measure the quantity of the work involved in the method, defined by using the appropriate method of measurement. Calculate the standard time for doing it by adding allowance. Now in this step, the first important thing is the measurement of the quantity of work, and then another important point is the standard time. Now when you are measuring the quantity, suppose a particular activity has 4 or 5 sub activity, and each sub activities take a particular time. Now when you are calculating the total time, you have to judge the quantum of the work which that particular worker has to do. That is very important, because if a worker is working on a lathe, he is first having some setup. He has to set up the machine, then he has to provide some feed, and then he has to start the machine. Now in this case, in each step the skill of the worker is required. So we have to consider each sub-activity and the quantity of work involved in each sub-activity. Then another important term is the standard time. Now standard time means what is the normal time and then adding some allowances. Now why we add the allowances? Because he has to go for daily needs, or he has to search for some tools, or he has to go to the store for some work. It might be possible he may have some personal talks with some. So we have to consider all these factors, and they comes under the allowance. That we cannot say that if a particular job is completed within 5 minutes, then we do not say that it is the standard time. We have to add some allowances, then that becomes a standard time for doing a particular activity. Then another step is the define the best method and the related time. Now here again the same thing we have to repeat, that we have to identify the best method, and here instead of best method we can say what is the optimum method for doing and what is the related time for that concerning that particular optimum method. Now in a second or in the seventh step we have to install the new method and train the personnel so that it conforms to the agreed standard practices. Now the worker was doing earlier with the old method of doing the job. Now when you have established and you have installed that now this is the perfect method of doing this job. Now another function as an industrial engineer or under the heading of the work study, one has to train the worker. Now here the training is very important. The training may be of 1 day or 2 days, and the basic purpose of the training is to train the worker so that he feels comfortable, because earlier he was doing the job for the last 5, 10, it might be 15 years. So it is not easy to change the attitude or the mental status of the worker. So before making a change, a training is must. One has to provide a particular type of a training so that it conforms the agreed method of doing the job in a best possible method. Now last method, or you can say the last step, is maintain the standard practice by a proper control mechanism. Now here the important term is maintain and the proper control. Now it is not only the job that you have installed, but you have to see whether the worker is doing the job in the prescribed manner or there is some deviation. Because once the worker has completed the training, and if the worker is realizing that there is no control, there are experiments or there are surveys which shows that after removing the control, the worker has switched to his original or the usual way of doing the job instead of new one. So a proper control is required, proper management is required, so that worker feels that there is a control and he should start. Because if he continues to do the work at least for 5, 6 or 10 times, he will become habitual of doing with the new way of doing job. Now we will come to the another important area of the work study, that is called the method study and the time study. Method study and the time study cannot be treated as two different parts of the work study, and they are basically interlinked. Now, as a work study, we know that for the ease of understanding the work study is often classified in the time study and the method study. In time study, basically we have a work measurement, motion study and the micro motion study. Or in other words, we can say that the method study can be divided into two groups. First is your motion study and another one is your micro motion study. The motion study has extended to motion economics, and motion economics or micro motion has led a way to ergonomics, which is nothing but the behavior or the way of doing or taking consideration the human aspect in the machine system. Now when we talk about the time study, we always remember F.W. Taylor, because the time study is a brainchild of F.W. Taylor. Now this time study is concentrated to develop a scientific method to any human problem, and basically the time study is attained by selecting a worker for each particular task and then training him soundly, essentially developing a cooperation between the workers and the management. Here the term cooperation is very important before conducting a time study. Now what was the Taylor's approach? That is the split up a work into a small activities called the elemental movements or the simply elements. Then eliminate all unnecessary. The first step is split up, and in splitting, if you are finding any unnecessary element, you can eliminate them. Then third one, assign time to each elemental motion accurately with the help of stopwatch or standards. Then classify and describe each elemental motion and its time carefully for future reference. That is another important, that whenever you are assigning the time or you are classifying, it is not for the time being, it is for the future reference, because the ultimate aim of the time study is to develop a new method for the future. Then add an allowance to actual time to cover the time delays due to known or forecasted or unforeseen reason. Therefore, you understand that why we are adding the allowances. It is just to cover the time delay for known or unknown reason. Then standardize the tool and the working condition. That is another important approach, that you are standardizing the tools and the working condition under which or with the more emphasis laid on the method and improvement. So why we are doing standardization? Because a particular method has been carried out in a optimal way or optimal utilization of the resources. Now you know that here the Taylor has summarized that you are doing a definite task with a definite time with a definite method. So basically when we talk about the time study, it's a definite task, definite time and a definite method. So these are the time, task and method. These are the key words in the Taylor study. Now let us see the another side. Now his study was directed towards the specialization and the standardization. Specialization means that a worker who is specialized in particular field, he will do a job in his specialization. And then standardization, that there is a standard method of doing every activity. Now the time study also has given rise to a firm, a scientific and calculative opinion on the remuneration system. Now what is remuneration system? That we are calculating or we are determining that what is the correct wage for a worker for doing a particular job. That is the remuneration system. So the time study is a scientific way of calculating the remuneration for doing a particular job. Now how we are going to have the remuneration system? Same, we have to first assign each worker a clearly defined task with a definite time. Then provide each worker with such standard conditions and appliances as will enable him to accomplish the task with certainty. So first we are assigning, then providing the standard conditions and appliances. Then we will remunerate each worker with a larger pay when he accomplishes his task. But if he fails, he is the loser. Therefore, the main objective of the time study, or when we conduct or when we are calculating the time for calculating the job remuneration, the main goal is to have a larger compensation if he completes the job within that time frame. But if he fails, then definitely he will be the loser, he is not going. And I would like to add here that the scientific management theory, which has been developed by F.W. Taylor, that mainly focused on the remuneration part, or it relate with the time study, that if a particular job is completed within that time frame, then the good amount of money will be given to the worker, and if it is not, then quite a major portion will be deducted. And the basic objective is to promote the production, the rate of production in the company. Now let us see that what is the definition by the labor organization. That is, the time study is the work measurement technique for recording the times and the rate of working for the elements of a specified job carried out under the specified condition, and for analyzing the data so as to obtain the definite level of performance. Here you will see that basically time study is nothing but a work measurement technique. Now in that, the first thing which is coming is the recording time and the rate of working for the elements of a specified job. That means you have divided the jobs into some elements, and then you have carried out under the specified conditions, and now you have a definite level of performance. So in the time study basically targets that a worker should do a job under the specified working condition so that he can attain the specified or the defined level of the performance. Now when we talk about the method study, it is a systematic and scientific evaluation of the existing and proposed plans and performance of a work, and the evaluation of improvement through analytical process of critical examination. Here the most important thing, that existing and proposed plan. For existing and proposed plan, the method study is carried out, and it is a basically systematic or scientific evaluation method. and it basically evaluates the performance of the work and basically guides you that how any improvement in the work can be carried out. Now there are basically three levels of its application. The first is method study, motion study, and the micro motion study. As we have pointed out, that the method study is the broad investigation for improvement of the total department, layout of the machine, equipment, flow of material, and the movement of man. That means you are taking care of each and everything, that how the departments are laid down, how the machines and equipments are laid down, and what is the flow of materials as well as the flow of or the movement of the man. So in the method study, it's a broad investigation because you are taking care of each and everything which is responsible for the production. And in motion study, it's a more detailed investigation of individual operation or operator or layout, parts or tools around a working bench or machine, use of jigs, fixture and consumable to perform the job effectively. That means under the motion study, you are taking the individual operation and you are seeing that what is the different types of motions are involved, or with basic objective that what is the correct way of doing a particular job. Under this motion study, basically we see the study of environment, body posture, different type of gestures, the noise level, the temperature, the pressure, the humidity around the workplace, and basically this is nothing but ergonomics. Now here is a picture that motion study is a systematic study of human motion used to perform a particular operation. Now these are the basic techniques of motion studies. Just like first is the guidelines for designing motion, that is the efficient work procedure. Then analysis of thermalics. Thermalics is nothing but there are 17 or 18 types of sub-activities, just like one is your grasp or handling. These are the small activities which has been defined by Gilbreth. If you just take the opposite of thermalic, it becomes your Gilbreth. So thermalics has been developed by Gilbreth, and one has to see that what are the different basic elemental motion. So these thermalics are the basic elemental motion which a job can be broken. Then micro motion study, that use the motion pictures and slow motion to study the motion and otherwise would be too rapid to analyze. And the finally is the chart. So basically there are four techniques of motion study. The first way is to see that what are the efficient work procedures. Then we have to break the job into the elemental activity, that is called the thermalic. Suppose we are taking any job, or we are just lifting this glass and placing it here. So first is the moving of our hand to this place. So movement of the hand, then grasping the glass and then placing it here and then releasing. So grasping, taking, movement and releasing, these are the sub-elemental or elemental activities. So in today's session we have discussed about the work study, what are the different objectives of the work study, what are the different steps in performing the job work study. Then we have also focused on the motion and the time study. For developing a new or innovative method, we need the work study. Even if we want to revise the existing method, then we also need the help of work study. Thank you.